take the time to create that foundation to walk before you run, right? You need to create that in all areas of what you're doing before you say, okay, I want to, as you're saying, launch these gigantic and super long campaign and program and all of that. Before, you need to establish those relationships, and you need to make sure that the wheels are well oiled and things are running smoothly.
Hey, I'm Corrina.
And I'm Taylor.
And this is Direct, a podcast we created to showcase the creativity and hard work of go-to-market teams everywhere.
We're here to share the stories and experiences of the hardworking, passionate individuals who make up go-to-market teams, the ones who truly make the magic happen.
Taylor and I have been fortunate enough to work side by side on some incredible projects together, and now we want to put a spotlight on the unsung heroes behind some of the best go-to-market campaigns out there.
In each episode, you'll hear from individual contributors who have gone above and beyond to make a difference. They'll share their challenges, victories, and the lessons they've learned along the way, all to help you unlock the next step in your career. Get ready to be inspired, learn something new, maybe even share a laugh or two.
Welcome to Direct.
Welcome back to this episode of Direct with myself, Taylor Young, and my fabulous, brilliant co-host, Corrina Owens.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Taylor. We're so happy to be here again with everybody and our special guest, Sofia.
Yes, we are so incredibly excited to hear from Sofia about integrated marketing at Reachdesk. Today, we have Sofia Silva, a B2B marketer currently helping lead demand generation, ABM, and advocacy creation within the SaaS space at Reachdesk, which, if you don't know, is a direct mail platform. Sofia has managed several demand gen and ABM campaign strategies and delivers a differentiated experience, is what she calls a more human-to-human approach. However, she didn't start in marketing. She actually started studying psychology and started her career in HR and moved to marketing because of COVID, which is just, she considers the best decision she's ever made. And she's also a new puppy mom to a 3-month-old puppy named Chili. What kind of puppy is Chili? Before we start, Sofia, have to know.
Chili is like a mixed breed. We adopted her from a shelter. She has some like Cavalier King traits, but we really don't know the breed, but she's
well,
very
we
cute.
Will have to get a picture. You'll have to send me a picture. Obsessed with new puppies. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're incredibly excited to hear from you about launching really a full-fledged ABM program at Reachdesk. But before we start there, we always have the same question for our guest. If you have a magic wand, what would you use that to change, whether that's in your role, in the ABM space, or just personally? How would you use that magic wand?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm just really excited to be here with you. I think one thing that I really, really need right now is more time. That's what I would have. First of all, I haven't slept because I have a puppy, as you mentioned. So sleeping is not something that I've been getting. And then just time. I mean, we've been working really hard on planning our H2 at Reachdesk. And there's just so many things that we want to do. But then we look back and we're like, okay, we don't have time for all of this. So definitely, if I would have a magic wand, I would add more time, both personally and professionally. That's something that I need.
I think that everyone can relate to that right now. So I think that was an excellent answer for sure. But speaking of H2 planning, you have had a lot of things you can look back on with some really impressive results and numbers. So today we really wanted to dive into what you guys did to really start to build out that account-based focus targeted approach versus the demand generation approach. Now, I know a lot of companies talk about that and think about that differently. How do you guys at Reachdesk view the difference between the two, and why did you decide to make the switch?
Yeah. So back when I started like a year and a half ago, almost at Reachdesk, we were already doing some sort of ABM. We always use kind of like our account lists to do our paid campaigns and stuff like that. So it was always a very ABM approach, if you want to call it that way. But it was never really integrated, right? It was like we were launching something here, something there, and then an activity here, an activity there. So it would sometimes feel like a scattered experience, nothing was very connected. And we were still very new. Like when I started, we were like 3 years younger, 3 years young. So it was very step by step the things that we were doing. But we felt like there was that missing link between everything that we were doing. And mainly we felt that there was a missing link between what we were doing and what our sales team was doing, right? The accounts that we were targeting and the accounts that they were targeting. And so the disconnect was not only on the experience of the campaigns that we were doing as a whole, but also the people we were targeting with those campaigns, right? And the effort that we were putting into what marketing was doing and then what sales was doing. And so we really looked at that, and I started at Reachdesk almost at the same time as Amber. So it was very like, okay, let's do it together. And we really looked at it and felt that we first should definitely target the same accounts and companies that our sales team was working, because we really have that philosophy that we should all kind of work together towards the same thing. We shouldn't like compete with each other or have like different goals. And so we really have that philosophy of all working together towards the same end result. And so we really felt that, okay, first of all, let's find a way to work with them and target the same accounts that they're targeting and working towards the same goals that they have. And then it was a matter of, okay, we have all these good things that we were doing. How can we kind of create these almost rapid under a gift and just create an integrated experience for our buyers as well? So that was kind of our thought process behind it and why we started it. And then it was almost a matter of, okay, what we need to get it done, right? We need resources in terms of like people, we need tech stack, and we need to create that cross-functional collaboration with the teams. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it was a little bit of like how we started that process.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's super helpful. I think that shows like how much goes into understanding, your market, your go-to-market strategy, which is so much of what account-based marketing really is, aligning those teams together. What did you find was like because I think what's so hard for most companies is finding where to start, right? So you did start by looking at like, okay, are these accounts the correct accounts? You aligned with sales, which I love, made it one team, one goal. So after that, then to your point, you're like, okay, we need to start testing some campaigns and programs and get things out there. What did you start with? If you had to describe either a channel or a tactic, what did you guys prioritize first?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what we really prioritized was looking at kind of what we already had, because we were a very small team. We're still a very small team. Back then, our demand generation team was me and Amber. Now we have another person, but we're very, very small. And so it was almost looking at, okay, what do we already have that we can repurpose again and use for this? And then how we can integrate that with other things that we want to do. And so we first looked at our content, right? Our team is always producing good content. So it looked like, okay, how can we leverage this and repurpose this and create new ads, create new, almost not new messaging, but new messages that we can share with these accounts that we target and these personas that we want to go after. And then we kind of looked at what was missing, right? At the gaps that we had. So, okay, we are going to talk about this topic. In this case, we were really targeting the marketing folks with the topic around like account-based experiences and how can you create those complement those with gifting. And so we already had a lot of content from our team on that topic, but we were missing more like the virtual side of things or like the event side of things. And so we were like, okay, let's have a webinar. Let's tell the story of one of our customers. Let's get someone that does this all the time in the conversation. And so we put together a webinar into that package. And then we were like, okay, how do we even elevate this experience a little bit more? Let's include gifting, which is something that we are always trying to do. And we included gifting around the webinar, around the campaign as a whole. And then we thought, now we need to include our sales team. And so we created specific outreach campaigns for them. We created specific cadences. So it was a lot of like small steps of looking at what we had and then what the gaps were into what was already existing and trying to fill out those gaps. And then just using the channels that kind of worked for us back then and worked for us, just like LinkedIn, display, all of that. And then it was kind of touching on the moment that we started evaluating an intent platform and started bringing that into our tech stack as well. So that was a fun process to start to include that layer into what we were doing.
Yeah, it sounds like a really robust program that you were putting together. And I know a big piece of that does hinge on that sales and marketing team alignment. What kind of challenges, when you did start encouraging the team to come in and like actually act on through the process that you're trying to create, what kind of challenges did you see aligning with those two teams?
Yeah, I think the first challenge was really like visibility, them having visibility into what we were doing, and then us having visibility into what they were doing. And just very simple things like just the fact that they know that those specific accounts are being targeted as part of this campaign. That's something that we didn't have before. And so we had to create like specific fields in our CRM to tag that and for them to quickly see, okay, this account is being targeted as part of this campaign. We use SalesLoft as a sales engagement platform. So we tag those accounts in specific nurture cadences in SalesLoft for the team to know, okay, I need to use this type of outreach for this account. But it was very hard at first, right? They were like not having visibility into the accounts that were being targeted because we had to that moment of creating those fields and adding that visibility into their day-to-day. And then sometimes they were like, I don't want to target this account with this campaign. So they weren't leveraging the resources. So it was a lot of just giving everyone visibility and then starting to communicate more effectively. One thing really nice that we have at Reachdesk is that we really work all together. Like we have regular meetings with our finance team. We have regular meetings with our ops team. We have regular meetings with our business development team. And so that kind of cadence that we started to have with them was just providing updates on, okay, this week or this month, this is what we're doing as part of this campaign. These are the resources that you have to leverage the campaign with your accounts. And creating almost like a playbook of how to for them. Like these are the accounts, this is what we're doing, and this is what you're doing was really helpful, I would say. But it was a challenge at first. I think whenever you kind of start ABM programs, it's always challenging that visibility and almost like, are these the right accounts? I think that was the first kind of learning that I had, not having done ABM ever in my life, was like a little experience that we had that were like, oh no, these are not the correct accounts for us to target. And they came to us and told us that. And then we were like, okay, we kind of need to redo this. And we worked with our ops team and then everything was smoother from there.
Breaking down the silos. I love it. I mean, that's such a good takeaway. And, I think Taylor and I we talk about that all the time. Like they're just not going to be able, no matter how much work you put into repurposing your content, which I think was a great thing that you highlighted on earlier, or, launching those display ads like you talked about that have been very successful for you. It doesn't matter if your team doesn't understand how and what and the why behind it. So yeah, just over communicate is like, I think a good philosophy to have. Speaking of like just having a smaller team, right? And knowing that you're really reliant on sales to help carry the ball here, there's, an element of tech, I imagine, too, that helps you kind of get things across a bit easier. But you and Amber may be the only ones that have access to some of the tech too, right? So communicating the value of some of these different campaigns, how are you evaluating going into the second half of the year? What tech tools really help you in these kinds of programs? Like, what are those key ROI metrics that you would use to evaluate whether you should keep using them or not?
Yeah. I think in our case, we've really tried to have multiple use cases in our tools. And again, this speaks to what you were saying, right? Like working as a team and working with the same goals. For example, we use 6 Sense, and we use 6 Sense to all the intent information. We use 6 Sense to help our account executives know exactly what accounts to prioritize. We use 6 Sense to create our segments for our LinkedIn campaigns and all of that. And then we use 6 segments for our own display campaigns. We use 6 Sense for our own display campaigns. So we use it for a multitude of use cases. And so it's almost like, okay, can we use this tool to work for different teams, work for different needs that we have, more than working on only one team and, the ROI is very big. Okay, but if it's only satisfying the need of one team, maybe we should look into other tools that we have that satisfy the needs of multiple teams. I can give you another example. A couple months ago, we were evaluating an interactive demo platform, and we ended up The way that we kind of ended up convincing the higher ups to get that tech stack was because it satisfies so many use cases within the organization. We can use it for product marketing efforts. We can use it for ABM campaigns. We can use it for customer onboarding and customer more related campaigns. We can even use it for product launches and product specific content. So that multitude of use cases, and just not looking at, okay, this will help us increase our demos and that's it. No, it will help a lot of teams within the organization. And I think that's what we always try to look for. It's how one tool can help different people.
I think that's spot on and such a great way to look at, when people are looking at budget slashes or, decreases, like being able to tell that story, like, through evaluation to implementation to, is just incredible. I'm glad you guys always have that forward thinking mindset. So it sounds like there's even more strategies that you guys are exploring. Did you end up leaning into that kind of product-led growth with the interactive demo tech tool?
Yeah, 100%. We are implementing it slowly. Again, very low bandwidth in a very small team. But yeah, we have exciting plans for H2 to kind of leverage it on these multiple use cases. Again, for ABM campaigns, for customer onboarding, for more product-related stuff. So yeah, I mean, to me personally, I think anything that we can do to help our buyers buy better and more informed and more independently is incredible. So I'm very, very happy that I got to bring that tech stack on board.
And it's such a robust tech stack that you were talking about as well. Did you guys face any challenges getting the data to flow in between them, understanding, the reporting across all of these different tech stacks and how it's collectively impacting this list of accounts?
Yeah, that's the short answer. Yes, especially with like 6sense was a monster to us, to be honest. It was, as everyone I think knows, intent platforms have really, really big chunks of data. And they, again, as they are used along multitude of teams within the organization, you have to be really cautious about all these intricacies between the data and between the teams. So yeah, it's a challenge, the implementation part, and just making sure that everything is transferring smoothly and everyone knows what is going on. Like we had to really engage with our sales team to tell them, okay, when you see this here, this is what it means, right? And we're now working, for example, on creating a dictionary for them. So when they see a specific campaign name, they know where that came from, what was the channel, what are we doing with that campaign, what is the messaging, what is the goal. So they know exactly how to follow up or how to interact with that account or that person. And so I think, again, it ties into that collaboration and that visibility, because even though it can be slow and even though it can bring a lot of operational and implementation challenges, whenever you have it implemented, I think it's more a matter of giving everyone visibility and making sure that everyone is on the same page. And when you do that, things work a lot better, I think.
Absolutely. And I love that you said dictionary. As soon as you did, I saw Corrina and my face both light up, because this is such a challenge for people who are trying to do ABM, is to really get sales involved and excited and understanding all of this crazy marketing stuff that we're always doing. So could you dig in just a little bit more on the dictionary, where that came from and kind of how you guys are operationalizing it?
Yeah, of course. So I think it was interesting because the idea came from our operations team. And it was almost like they telling us, I don't get this, so I don't think sales gets it as well. And you were like, okay, let's fix it. And so, for example, on the digital side, our digital marketing manager created this amazing presentation, like what does each channel does? Because they don't know, right? It's not their responsibility to know, because they're not within marketing. They're not working on those channels on a day-to-day basis. So she created this presentation. We also have like a Notion documentation with the campaign kind of code names and what do they mean, what kind of like keywords are they targeting, or what kind of accounts are they targeting. But it's a work in progress as well. Like whenever we think, oh, this is amazing, they'll understand it. And they're like, sorry, what does this mean? Okay, we need to be even more clear, because we find it easy, right? For us, it's like very intuitive almost to know, oh, if they came from LinkedIn and this specific campaign on this segment, this is what it means. And for them, it's like, it's not part of their day-to-day. It's like they telling me, oh, this account mentioned this pain point, and now I'm going to offer this. I have no idea what they're talking about most of the time. But again, having that kind of visibility is what we really focused on. So we have this presentation, we have this documentation, and then what we also try to do every time that we launch like a campaign or that we have a specific higher value content, for example, we are sponsoring an event or we are doing a webinar or we are launching something new, we also create like a playbook for them. So it usually has some sections around like who is the target audience that we are working towards, what are our goals with that specific asset or event, what can they do to promote it and to amplify it. So we usually have like social post templates for more like the advocacy side. We have cadences that they can use on their email outreach, and then kind of like how we are going to measure it, the resources that they have that they can reach out to if they need anything. So again, it's very like collaborative, and I think people really like to have that visibility. And again, it's not just with sales and marketing. I was even thinking about something that our CFO said a while back in a conversation that we have. Like, people like to be asked about their jobs. They like to be asked about what they're doing. And they like to talk about that with others and to kind of explain it to others and to make others understand. And so if you make that effort to, even if unpromptedly, like no one asks you, but you try to explain it and to make it clear for everyone what you're doing and how does that impact what they're doing across multiple teams, again, not just sales and marketing, I think it makes it a lot easier for others to do their job well and to understand you better. And then collaboration is smoother and more human, I think, and more empathetic.
I love that you shared that, because I think that the fact that CFO had that moment that probably tapped into your initial studies in psychology, like your interest in, what people's mind work and thinking of others. And that's so much of what I think we have to do as marketers. And it sounds like even on your ops team, like kudos to them for even raising their hand and asking the question, because then they realize like, hey, I need to understand what they're goaled against in order to best understand how I can make this most effective for the entire company. So I think you just picking up on how much enablement really goes on within account-based marketing efforts or any go-to-market strategy motion is really, really important. And I don't think it's highlighted enough. So I think that that'll be a really great takeaway for our listeners is, if you're in marketing, just show and tell as much as possible and as many different ways as possible, because maybe an email won't cut it. Maybe you'll need to get on a call. Maybe you'll need to do it in person workshop. Who knows? Like, people learn in a variety of different ways. But the fact that that's so forefront of Reachdesk's mind across the company, I think is probably why you really enjoy working there as well. It's kind of showing how it is a very human centered approach just across your company, which is really nice to see in a small startup.
Yeah. I would also add to that, just not thinking that the other person knows what you're thinking and what you're doing just because you know what you're thinking and what you're doing. And this applies to everything, right? Not only work life, but for personal life as well. We kind of need to be empathetic and put ourselves in the other's shoes. And again, sales, marketing, finance, product, customer, all those teams. If you try to think, okay, what is my counterpart on the customer success team thinking? What do they need? What can I do to help them? The same with your CFO and finance, right? With all these conversations about budget cuts, they are not just cutting budgets because they want to and it's fun. So if we put ourselves in their shoes, and again, if they put themselves in our shoes as well, it makes it a lot easier to work and it makes it a lot easier to achieve cool things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that empathy is so important inside of your organization, which you've really hit on today, as well as outside. And I know we mentioned that like you've really kind of pioneered this human to human approach at Reachdesk. How would you describe making sure that your campaigns come across really human to human as well?
Yeah, I think it's really fun because our main target persona is marketing, right? It's people that work in marketing. And we work in marketing, so we know when we're being targeted, right? We know when an ad is made for us. We know when all of that. We are a lot more sensitive to those things. So I think one way that we try to bring this more human to human approach is to make it kind of fun and to kind of say, hey, we know what you're going through because we are going through it. I was just working a couple like the past week in our new nurture program. And I really tried to bring that kind of fun side and of like, hey, I know you're struggling. We are struggling. Everyone is struggling. It's fine. We are going to get through it. And just, I think bringing that more, I'm a human too. And I know that whoever's reading this, whoever's reading this ad, this email, coming to this event is a human too, and not just a company or a potential buyer or potential dollars. I think if you kind of bring that philosophy into all that you're doing, you kind of get to that human to human or more empathetic brand as well. And our sales team does that really well. Like they really focus on personalization. As you mentioned, we are a gifting platform and our team does gifting a lot. But it's not only like, hey, here's a gift card or hey, here's a voucher for Uber Eats. Our team really goes the more in deep. And if they see that someone was sick over the weekend, they might send them a care package. If they see that someone just got a new puppy or just has a new baby, they might send them something for the baby. If they see that someone went to a game and they really liked it, they might send them something related with that. So it's very human in that sense. And I think our basis as a company is very human again in that the way that we try to treat people, not only internally, but externally as well. And that's what I say, like, we are all people, even though we work at companies and even though we are doing businesses. But we, like me, Sofia, you, Corrina, you, Taylor, are not businesses. You are people. And so if I look at my brand as targeting people, then I think people will feel that on the other side, right? And if they'll see, oh, of course I relate with this. This is exactly what I'm going through. This brand and the people behind this brand understand me.
I can attest to that because I was targeted by Reachdesk, and they spoke of my love of The Office, which, you know, I do talk about on LinkedIn, but it's not like I talk about it every day. So there was intentionality there behind somebody researching like my interests and what I like. And I appreciated it. It was a cute like play on like the Dundies, and it wasn't, nothing about it really felt templatized. And I did show it off like to the team and said, you know, hey, this is a great example of personalization. So you guys really are kind of, you know, walking the walk, talking the talk, or whatever the saying is. But I would ask you, right? There's so many technologies that we've touched on today, which I love. And I love how you've talked about how you think about it as a collective versus just as a silo, like campaign or team. But there's some things that just can't be scaled. Like, and I think personalization is one of those. So what would you say, Sofia, is like your favorite way to figure out like how to really connect, you know, whatever data point that could be? What is your favorite way of researching or connecting with your audience?
Yeah, I think, and this tip is not mine, disclaimer, it's from something that our team started doing. And it can be controversial just because it touches on AI. And I know how much AI can be controversial. But they have a rule of, and touching on what you were saying, Corrina, of researching three things in 3 minutes of their like target prospect. And so again, that person that made that outreach to you probably has researched and found that you like The Office. But again, as you mentioned, that takes time and sometimes it's not easy and scalable. So what they started doing, and more on the like company side and role side of things, and not as much personal, because again, I think to be really personal, you still need to take a little bit of time and dedication. But on the more like company side, they started asking ChatGPT, like, hey, what is this like recent news on this company? Are they hiring? What's going on? And recent events that they attended or sponsored. And they basically very quickly get a snapshot of what's happening at XYZ company that they're targeting and what's potentially can be the pain points of the persona that they're targeting. And then they round up that information and they go on the more personal side, probably like do some digging on LinkedIn and check some things that the person has done. But I think even though, again, it can be a bit controversial leveraging these tools, it can also help scale things like this. And again, this is a lot of like my human to human thing, and he'll probably relate with this one because I think Michael has mentioned it in the office a couple of times. But I don't feel like machines and tech stack and all of that will replace humans ever. And so I think we also rely a lot on our ops team to help us connect the dots and connect all the info that we have. Because it's hard when you have all these data points coming from everywhere. And we are a relatively small organization, so we don't have a huge tech stack like bigger companies do. But still, just having that team kind of guide us and that people that we can go to and tell, okay, we are getting this information, but we don't know as much as connected with this information that we are getting from the other side. And they just guiding us through that process. Again, humans are much better than any machine, I would say.
That's such a great idea. And I think you could even probably like scale upon that by saying like, hey, by each intent signal, whatever that is, like however you prioritize that within your company, go to ChatGPT and research these 3 things, right? So that's another way I think that you can just expand upon that. But I think that's such a cute, great way to leverage and also personalize at the same time. Love it.
Yeah.
And I love, you've made so many brilliant tips for the listeners for this, between like leveraging content and finding gaps all the way to aligning and enabling your sales team. One of the things I love that you've kind of touched on is when what we're seeing from the account-based marketing like platform side is it's not just marketing in order to do this well. It's not even just marketing and sales. What you just hit on, it is marketing and sales and operations in order to do this well, because you have to know what the data is telling you in order to make good decisions and good optimizations. How did the team at Reachdesk, how did your team really engage the operations side of the house and build a relationship where they were willing to help you and be consistent, not just, hey, what's the data say about our ICP, but consistently help and support your account-based program?
Yeah. So we created a Tiger team with our ops team, which is very small as well. And we have like weekly check-ins with them. We use Asana as well for like any requests that come in, any ideas that we have for optimization. And we really started to have these kind of workflow with them of like, this is an issue that we're seeing. We need support here. This is like the action items that we need. And just regularly keeping that kind of flow going. And I think that's something that we didn't have a couple like quarters before. And now it's a really, really good collaboration that we have, because it's almost like the visibility that we have into the projects that they're working on also help us be more empathetic with them, their bandwidth and their time and their goals as well. And they having visibility into what we're doing and what things mean help us say, okay, I'm going to prioritize this. I'm going to build this because it helps you have more visibility into this and that. And so I think just creating that repeatable process and ongoing communication was something that really unblocked that relationship for us, and that helped us become more effective as 2 teams working together. And just like asking what they're doing and what do they need. And they being very honest with us and saying, I don't get what you're doing. I don't get what this tool does. I don't get what this channel means. Explain it to me so I can help you better. I think that's what really like changed the mindset, is like, okay, we're here to help you be better at your job for both sides, to be honest. And that really unblocked that collaboration.
I love that answer. I can't tell you how much, because so much of the success of an account-based program is not about buying a giant tech stack and pouring loads of dollars into it. It's about having a really solid strategy all the way through, not just like, hey, I got these accounts, I've got these beautiful ads, let's see what happens. But the enablement, the time that you've taken to enable your teams to build relationships cross-functionally, that I think is the magic and the power behind the success in everything that you've seen. So I just wanted to say kudos to building that and spending the time to really nurture those relationships, because that, if anything else, that is what I hope our listeners get out of this conversation, is building those cross-functional relationships is really what makes that work.
Yeah. And take, as you're saying, like take the time to do that, to create that foundation before, like to walk before you run, right? You need to create that in all areas of what you're doing before you say, okay, I want to, as you're saying, launch these gigantic and super long campaign and program and all of that. Before, you need to establish those relationships, and you need to make sure that the wheels are well oiled and our things are running smoothly. And then, okay, this is what we want to do. This is the people that we want to get involved. This is what we need from each people. And this is all the things that we are doing very clearly described, and our goals very clearly shared as well. And I think that's another thing, like sharing goals is the key to have successful partnership between all the teams.
Well, it's certainly a lot what you've undertaken, you and the team and the company as a whole. But I think there's so much to be said for putting the foundations first. So I'm glad you guys recognize that. You clearly have strong leadership that understands that things take time. And I want to bring us back to that question that we started off with, which is you want more time. And unfortunately, we can't zap it and make that happen. But I do want to see if, like, throughout this conversation, you've thought of any additional ways you can have more time in your life to sleep, to create, to do the work, to have balance and structure. I have a couple of thoughts of my own. I'm curious if you've had any that have come up through the conversation, or I can share with you and get your thoughts on how we can help you do that.
Yeah, of course. No, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But I think one very hard thing that we can all do to have more time is really prioritize what matters to us, right? And it's so hard to say no. Like, oh, let's do that. No. And sometimes we have to say no to ourselves, which is even worse, right? Because this idea is so amazing. Let's do this program. And we have to tell ourselves, no, that's way too much. And again, just I think saying more professionally than personally, it's hard to say no to my puppy. But professionally, I think just learning that way to say no and to just, okay, no, this is what was really important and this is what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to do this really well instead of doing a lot of things and doing the things really well. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I think that's great. And I think that noticing that is also going to help, any manager you have beyond the one just today, right? You being able to say, these are all the things I want to do, and then asking too for help. Like, hey, should I be prioritizing this, or something changed? That's something I definitely am guilty of not doing enough of in my career, is saying, hey, I need help. So you even just having those conversations with your manager too, I think will help that. And then a little tip that I've been doing that has been helping me, because I've certainly been feeling just overwhelmed and there's so much to do. And I got a little tip from my therapist, which sounds very basic, but she was like, just schedule the time for lunch. Schedule the time to take out your puppy. I also have a new puppy too. And it's silly or simple, I should say, not silly. Yeah. But it's helped reinforce like a reminder. And it feels, I would put blocks on my calendar, my professional calendar before, but that was not being respected always on the other end. But I can certainly start to respect my own time and just keep it on my personal phone and know that I can manage my time more effectively if I place in those buckets for more balance.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I have a lunch break. I also have already put a whilst the puppy break, because she can't walk outside yet. She needs to complete the vaccination, but I already have it there for when she can. But I think sometimes it's hard to comply, right? Sometimes we see the bluffer there and like, just for 5 minutes, for 5 more minutes, it's fine. So it's almost like, okay, no, this is almost like a meeting. It's a meeting with myself and my puppy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We have really enjoyed having you. So many great hot takes. I know we are in the ABM space all the time, and it can feel like there's a lot of ABM content out there, but the value that you brought to this conversation was so impactful, and I'm so appreciative of you of coming on the show.
Yeah, I was really, really excited to be on the show. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sofia, and keep rocking it. And hope you and Chili can get more walks in together.
More sleep as well.
Yes, more sleep too, more sleep. All right. Take care, Sofia. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Direct with Corrina and Taylor.
If you enjoyed what you heard in today's episode, please give us a follow, maybe even a 5-star review, wherever you listen to your podcast.
And if you know someone that you'd like to spotlight, if you want to share your own story, visit us at motionagency.io/direct. We'd love to hear from you.